Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, February 14th, 2018, and this is episode 48. My name is Carol and I am known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog and also in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. So if you don't find what you're looking for there, by all means drop me a line on Ravelry or leave a comment on YouTube and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone, or as my daughter used to call it, Singles Awareness Day. We don't do much around here. Usually my husband and I just exchange cards. Sometimes he'll bring me flowers, or I told him, don't give me chocolates this year. I'm still working on the ones from Christmas. I don't need any more temptation. A lot of years I have made him a lemon meringue pie, and I think I might have done that last year, but I am not this year. It was funny, he came home last night and he asked if they had changed the date of Valentine's Day, and I said, no, as far as I know, it's always been February 14th. He said, well, I was wondering because the calendar at work, which was actually printed by the company he works for, it had Valentine's Day down as yesterday, February 13th. So he thought maybe he'd missed something, and so he was feeling bad because he hadn't left my Valentine's card out for me in the morning like he normally does, because he's up and gone to work before I get up. And then he was feeling badly because he was realized how late it had gotten. He thought it was probably not cool to work late on Valentine's Day. But as it wasn't Valentine's Day. Not that it would have been a big deal anyway, but it was just kind of funny. So you can see we have a snowy day here today. The snow started about 10 o'clock last night, and it was still snowing when I got up at about 7:30 this morning, and continued to snow for probably a couple hours. But it has cleared up. There's blue sky, sunshine. The snow is very wet and heavy, and it's already melted off all the roads, or at least the road out in front of our house, and I don't think it's going to stick around very long. I think it's kind of winter's way of reminding us that winter's still here. Don't get too excited, even though there are signs of spring everywhere, like crocuses blooming, and I can see when I go for a walk, some of the trees are starting to leaf out. Winter's saying, no, just hang on, I'm still here for a few more weeks. So I must say it is pretty, especially with the sun on it. So I don't mind a little bit of snow if I don't have to go out in it, or if it's, you know, what I mean is if I don't have to drive in it. And as it is, like I say, the roads are fine. So if I did have to go somewhere, it wouldn't have been a big deal either. But no, I'm nestled all snug in my house today. Before I get into the podcast, I have a little bit of administration to take care of. So I heard from the winner of the Podiversary prize draw, MVDD, and that is Marie. So hi Marie, thank you for getting back to me with your mailing info. I've sent you a return message on Ravelry, and I'm guessing maybe you're not on Ravelry very often because I haven't heard back from you. So I'm hoping you'll see this and let me know which project bag that you would like, because you get your choice between this kind of Victorian print or this one that I think kind of looks like doilies. So please message me back, and as soon as I hear from you, I will send one of these and the yarn out to you as soon as possible. So thank you. Okay, I've already recorded this podcast. I think I lost count, probably something like 375 times. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration. But I was on a roll, finally, after redoing, and then my son came home sick from work, and he was going to be making some lunch, and I figured, okay, I might as well stop, go have lunch, and then once he's gone back down to his room, he's going to go and have a snooze. then I'll start all over again. So I've had lunch, feeling refreshed. So cross your fingers that this goes smoothly this time, because I just can't seem to do it right. Anyway, today's episode is going to include what I'm wearing, a couple of finished projects, several works in progress, some acquisitions, and a little bit about what's happening in my life this week. So let's start with what I am wearing, which is the Helleborus yoke by Matthew Nanji. I'll put the name on the screen. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but it is a cardigan that was in a Knit Scene magazine. And I knit this way back in August 2012 from some Cascade Eco Wool in color 8025. And you can see it's a beautiful, whoops, I just shook the camera, beautiful cabled yoke cardigan with short sleeves. So it has like a ribbed collar and cuffs. And then the bottom is also ribbed. And then the body of the cardigan has this moss, nice textured moss or seed stitch to it. So I think it looks nice with long sleeves, and I like to fill in the neck with like a turtleneck or a mock neck. So yeah, it's been a good knit. I did make some modifications, and all of the details are on my project page. So if you're interested, again, check out the show notes, and there should be a link to take you to my project page. So finished project number 1. Well, last week I was all set to cast on the first pattern in the Handmade Sock Society called Winter Rose. And after the podcast, I went through my stash and I found some yarn. And then my conscience got the better of me, and I thought, before I start another pair of socks, I really should finish up a pair that I've had on the go since last March 9th. And those of you who've watched for a while will recognize Couplet by Bonnie Sennett. And they are knit from Fleece Artist Blue Faced Leicester sock in the Winter Sleep colorway, which I guess would have been fitting if not for our latest show of winter. Anyway, I had, while we were on our holidays around New Year's, I'd finished the first sock, and then I had done the lace, up to the lace on the second sock. So I picked them up and I finished sock number 2. So yay, I have a pair. Let's see if I hold them that way, I guess. There you go. And it's quite, they remind me of tartan, because the just with the colors in the yarn and the way the stripes kind of run, or the yarn stripes a little bit, or at least the dominant colors run horizontally. I don't know if it shows up on camera as much as I sort of see it in the yarn itself or in the sock itself. But then they has these columns of this alternating garter and stockinette stitch, and yeah, it just reminds me of a tartan. So yeah, they're done. So now I can cast on the Winter Rose socks with a clear conscience, and I'm going to show you the yarn I've chosen for those in a little while. So I'm just going to lean over and put this over here. Running out of room again. So this has unexpectedly turned into what I'm referring to as Finish It Up or Fix It Up February, because my conscience is definitely getting the better of me, and I am thinking I really need to finish up some projects before I start new ones. So with that in mind, I finally got around to putting the border on my miter squared blanket. So this is called Sock Yarn Blanket by Shelley Kong, And again, you can check my project page for a link to her pattern, which a lot of it's written up on her blog. And then I devised a way to add these triangles or half diamonds along the edges. I decided I wanted my edges to be square rather than zigzaggy. So you can read my project page. I've explained how I do that. And the original pattern does an I-cord bind off. You cast on provisionally and then do an I-cord bind off. And I wasn't sure I wanted to do all that knitting, and I also thought that all this stretchy garter stitch could benefit from a more, what I thought would be a more stable crocheted edge. And so that's in the end what I did do, is do a crocheted edge. And I have this, I've tried a few colors. I had always pictured doing a gray edge, and when I was looking at some of the neutral sock yarns in my stash, gray just didn't do it for me, and I decided on this navy, which I'll just lean out of frame here. It's just a skein of yarn I had picked up in Bendigo, Australia, at the Bendigo Woolen Mill a few years ago. We actually have a podcast viewer and member of our group, Katie Beth is her Ravelry name, that lives in Bendigo. So we've had a little discussion about that, but this was just some unmarked sock yarn, 75-25 wool nylon. It didn't have a label or anything. So anyway, I used that, and I kind of debated. Well, I tried a few different things. It took me about half a day to settle on the size of the hook and how many stitches I would pick up around. When you do these triangle, or this, well, I guess they have the triangles, but the diamonds too, you end up with slip stitch edges. So that's one slip stitch, well, I guess it's, yeah, a slipped stitch for every 2 rows of knitting that you do. So originally I had picked up 1 for 1, like crocheted into each slip stitch, and I thought it would be a bit too tight. So then I switched it to alternating between picking up 1 in each slip stitch and then crocheting twice into the next one and then alternating like that. But then it was a bit too wavy, so I actually went back, just loosened up my stitch a little and went back to just doing 1 in 1. So that's how I did it. And I just ended up doing 3 rows of single crochet. I know I could have made the border grow a little faster by doing a half double crochet or double crochet, but I didn't like the way it looked. So that's what I ended up on, is just this 3 rows of single crochet all around the entire blanket. So it's done. It's going to be impossible to show it to you. Those who have watched for a while have sort of seen bits and pieces of it before. I alternated between solid and semi-solid yarns and patterned yarns, and I tried to make each yarn surrounding a square, or each square surrounding a square, complement the one that it was touching. So that lent some, or tried to lend some organization or method, I guess, to the madness, rather than just being entirely random sock yarn blanket. I wanted there to be some order and some method behind my madness. And so I am woefully behind in taking finished project pictures for my projects, which you will know if you ever do go on the show notes and click through to them. I'm going to try this week to get some of those done, and I will spread this out. It fits on the top of a queen size bed, so I'm going to lay it out on our bed and take pictures kind of from above so that you can get a good overall look at it in all its glory. As I have said before, absolutely loved doing this project. It's one of my favorite ever. It took 3 years. It started 24th of January and I finished I wrote 2017, but that's wrong. It was 2015 and I finished it February 11th this year, 2018. And it was never supposed to be a fast project. I knew it would take a long time, and that was okay. And I thoroughly enjoyed every stitch of it. And I look forward to doing another scrappy blanket in the future. I have some ideas that I have to kind of experiment with and see if it's going to work, which I have a feeling it's not. But I'll figure something out. I'm going to do another scrappy blanket. It's funny, I just going to reach here. I was looking for something to work on last night. And I sort of thought, well, now that I've finished that, maybe I'll pull out my mitered square, or not mitered square. I wasn't going to talk about this, so I didn't write notes down. My barn raising quilt, which is a knitted, sorry, tripping over words, and another Afghan done with scrap yarn, and you do these squares. And I started it actually around the same time I started that one, and I have knit 13 squares. And I thought, well, maybe I'll make it a single bed size, and then it can go on the spare bed downstairs. And so I was kind of laid out the squares at the top of the bed just to get an estimate of how many squares I need to finish. And I'm going to need about 66 in all. So with 13 done, I still have a ways to go, and I just immediately went, no. Will I do it one day? Yes, I probably will get back to it. Last night was not the time. So anyway, I have started out with the idea of doing all solid or semi-solid colors. I am rethinking that, but for now, that's sort of the plan. I don't know. This is, there's my 13. Oops, there's number 13 there. I haven't blocked that one yet. Anyway, this is going back into hibernation for a while. My finish it February did not reach that far. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of tea before it gets cold. Okay, and I'll start talking about some works in progress. So I did cast on one new project, but that's only because I needed a new pair of plain socks to work on while riding in the car, etc. I'm just searching for the label here. Oh, I think I left it on my computer desk because I had taken it out to write down the information on the project, on the show notes. In any case, the yarn is Opal Hundertwassers in color 2106, which is, again, I'll put on the screen because I do not speak German. I don't know if it's Regen auf Regentag. In any case, it means rain on rainy day. So I'm calling these my rainy day socks, and I'm knitting them for my sister for her birthday, which is not till next January, but as you know, I like to knit my gifts all year long. So I'm doing these toe up, partly because she has a wider and longer foot than I do, and I always want to make sure I have enough yarn, and also partly because the skein started with the turquoise, and that's kind of where I wanted them to start, because I'm going to use this West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply in the blue raspberry color as complementary short row heels. So I think they go together very well. So yeah, it's really pretty. Enjoying it so far. So as you can see, got a ways to go. Oh, there's someone at that delivery for my son. I have to say we're still getting used to having someone else living here again. Earlier when I was recording, all of a sudden I heard footsteps on the hallway, and I hadn't heard him come in the front door. He, as I said, he came home sick from work, so I wasn't expecting anyone, and it's a strange feeling, but I mean, it's fine. He's easy to have around. It's just, it takes a little getting used to. In any case, yeah, I was saying I really like these socks, and then I took that opportunity to grab the label. So you can see this colorway is based on this painting here. So, yeah, there's work in progress number 1. Number 2, I've continued working on Dusty Road by Carol Feller. And I have completed the first sleeve. So I have to say I was really frustrated with this project for a while. When I was doing the body and alternating skeins, I didn't find that a problem, but when I started on the sleeves, the way I was turning the sleeve as I was working on it, because I was using magic loop to knit them, the yarns just kept twisting up on each other, and within a round they'd be like 4 twists in the yarn, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing to cause that, and I was just getting frustrated because every row I'd have to unravel these yarns. I finally figured out I was able to start sort of twisting the sleeve instead of twisting the yarn, and that's a lot easier to untwist a sleeve than it is the yarn. So anyway, I worked it out. Not so bad anymore. So yeah, there's the sleeve, and then this cuff. And then when I went to knit the cuff, I realized that I had read the chart for the ribbing wrong, and I had done it wrong on the bottom, the ribbing on the bottom of the sweater. And I had a choice. I could have just mimicked that ribbing for the cuff and left it, you know, left the ribbing in at the bottom of the sweater the way it was, and just did the same thing for the sleeve cuffs. But I liked this better. I liked it the way it was supposed to be better. And so I finished the sleeve, and then I took out the bottom ribbing and I redid it the way it was supposed to be. And I'm glad I did. It took a while, obviously, but that's the way it's supposed to look. The way I had read the chart before, it's like a 3-stitch repeat and then with an extra stitch. And I'm actually not even sure why there is an extra stitch, because you're working the ribbing in the round. So I'm not sure why there was that extra stitch on the chart anyway. But I read it as though I was supposed to do 2 knit stitches and then 2 of these broken rib stitches, like the purls or the alternating knits and purls. Anyway, long story short is I had columns of 2 knit stitches between all of these, and I like it better with just the 1 stitch. So I'm glad I did it. Just took a while. So I finished that last night, and it was too dark to pick up the stitches for the sleeve. So I did slip the sleeve stitches for the second sleeve onto the needles, but it was just felt too dark to start knitting this sleeve, because I have to pick up stitches under the arm and all that. So I put that aside, and then I was kind of at a loss of what to work on. So as I said, I considered working on the barn raising quilt and rejected that idea. I didn't just want to work on plain stockinette socks. I wanted something a little more interesting. I like to save that kind of project for when I want something mindless. So it got me thinking about Gabbro again. And so I decided to pick that up and rip back the hem like I had said I was going to do. And so it was a little bit fiddly because I had actually alternated 3 skeins of yarn on this project in order to make the colors distribute well, because the 3 skeins were quite, I think 2 were fairly similar and 1 was lighter. And so I just alternated the 3 all throughout the project so that it would be more uniform. So it's kind of fiddly ripping it back, not just because I had multiple ends of yarn, but also because there had been short rows shaping this hemline. And so I had little rows to rip back, and I'd have to keep untwisting the yarn. So anyway, it finally happened. And I did put the stitches onto a needle, and then I decided what I was going to do was knit. See if I can show you. I decided to run a row of diamonds around the entire hemline, and then work a garter row cuff similar to the sleeves and the neckline, and then bind off. And so I actually did get through a repeat of the diamond pattern, but I had started knitting with the yarn that I had ripped back with, and as you can see, it's very curly. And not only did the knitting not look very nice, I also messed up somewhere on the diamond pattern, so it wasn't right anyway. I think the first few rows were okay, and then I somehow got off. And so what I decided to do is take it back to this sort of starting point again, and then I'm going to re-knit that section with new yarn. I do have some left over from the project, and so I'm going to do that. And then I think it will be smoother for one, and knit up at a better gauge, and also I will be able to see this diamond pattern. Let's see if I see it more clearly as I knit it, so if I do get off pattern, I will be able to pick up on it more easily. So I only need to do a row of diamond pattern, and then a few rows of stockinette, and then a few, this I don't know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch of garter, and then I'm done. So it's not going to take me very long. So I'm definitely feeling good about taking this back and reworking it, because I just can tell from trying it on after having taken it back and such that I'm going to be a lot happier with the finished results. So that's where that lies. So definitely a finish it up, fix it up February, and there's more in the works. So I definitely have plans to work on some other languishing projects too once I'm finished those. I'd really love to. I don't picture myself getting down to 0 projects. That's just not realistic for me. But I'm definitely motivated right now to make something usable out of what's already there. As I mentioned, I did choose yarn for the winter rose socks. There's a picture of them there. Nice lace, simple lace sock. So I pulled out this yarn from my stash. It is a skein of this purple, they call it eggplant, that's the colorway. And then it came with this mini skein of yarn for coordinating heels, toes, and cuffs. So that's the plan. I thought the colors were very reminiscent of some of the pictures of winter roses that I saw. So this yarn is from the Alpaca Yarn Company. It's Paca Peds HT. I think that might mean heels and toes. And as I said, it's in the eggplant colorway. So not exactly sure when these will get cast on, but I'm hoping before next podcast. So I was debating whether to talk about acquisitions now or kind of work them into what's been going on this week, because that's kind of where they belong. So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, looking back over our week, had a memorial service we attended on Wednesday for a man who played in my husband's ball league for a long time. So weren't really close friends with him, but certainly acquaintances, had got to know him and his wife over the years. So it just seemed like the right thing to do, to go to that. And as these occasions tend to do, kind of make you think about your own life and how you'll be remembered and what you leave behind in terms, not so much financially, but how you touch people's lives. So yeah, it was actually a very nice service, and his nephew gave a great eulogy. And I know this man will be missed by many people. I think he's touched a lot of people in his life in all sorts of areas. He had a few different interests and seemed to have groups of friends from all of them. Not to mention a large extended family that appear to be quite close. So got annihilated at curling on Thursday, so we just won't talk about that. We babysat Friday evening. We just actually had the youngest granddaughter first. She came to our house, and then her older brother was at his school at a birthday party, so we went to pick him up, and then we took the two of them over to their house since they live right across from the school. And our oldest granddaughter was in a production at school, and so that's where her mom and dad were, and so we just kind of got the kids into their PJs and hung out till they got home. So that was kind of a last minute thing. She had my daughter had not realized till the day before that it was going to run kind of long and not really be suitable for little ones, and so she had asked us to watch the kids. And then what I hadn't realized until early last week was that it was Family Day on Monday. So Family Day is a fairly new holiday certainly in British Columbia. And I don't know if it's in every province, and it's kind of strange because in some provinces they're on the same day, and then other provinces have it a week later, and apparently next year they're actually going to have ours a week later than this year. Anyway, it's just, like I said, fairly new stat holiday, so we're not quite used to it yet. But it's nice to have a break in the middle of February. And so I got thinking about we should try and do something, as a family to observe it. I think it's actually a really good idea for a holiday. And so we ended up having everyone for dinner on Sunday. So that was nice. Loud and noisy and as always, but good to see everybody. I'm kicking myself because we were all together and I didn't get any pictures, or it would have been a good time to do maybe a family picture, and we didn't, but lost opportunity, unfortunately. So Monday was actually the holiday, but since we had dinner the night before, we just chilled on Monday. It was great. I knit pretty well all day, and my son and I ordered Indian food for dinner. My husband's not into that, so he had leftovers from Sunday dinner. which suited him fine. So yeah, it was just a really nice, laid-back, lazy day. And then yesterday, Tuesday, both my daughter and I had appointments in the morning, but then we decided to do a little mother-daughter afternoon of yarn shopping and going out for lunch. Her husband had an extra day off because of the holidays, so he watched their daughter and got the kids from school and all that. So we headed into Langley, which is a couple of cities closer to Vancouver, and went to 88 Stitches, which is our favorite local-ish yarn shop. So I had a gift certificate from Christmas, so it was time I spent it. So I ended up picking up these 3 skeins. It's called Lichen and Lace 80/20 sock in the faded rose colorway. You can see it's a blend of kind of pale yellow and gold and pale pink peachy color. So I have it in mind to knit a sweater from this yarn. So not sure when that'll happen, but it will happen. And then we went to Olive Garden for lunch. That's the closest one to us. Excuse me, gotta reach out of frame for a sec. I know they have it in the United States. It's like an Italian restaurant for those in other countries. So a nice lunch, and then in the same complex there's a Michael's craft store, so we walked over there, and I actually got picked up some beads. Actually, I think my yarn's here. Yeah, if you've been watching, you'll know that I frogged my sugar plum shawl, no, tulle shawl by Helen Stewart, because the beads I used were too small. So there's the yarn. It was just living right behind me there in a cubby, and so I've picked up larger beads so I can do a do-over on that one. Very similar beads to what I had before, just a more appropriate size. So again, one of these days. And then we went over across the street to Chapters, which is a bookstore, and actually worked out really well, because they had a promotion that if you bought a card, like a greeting card with your order, they had like a scratch and win ticket. So I hadn't picked up a Valentine's card yet, so I did that, and so I got this ticket. And then my daughter bought some books, so I said, well, do you want to just pay for it all together, and then you can, get a discount. So they think it was 5 to, I want to say 100% off, but I might have only been 50. In any case, she got 25% off, so that was a good deal for her. So that was awesome. So yeah, we had a really nice afternoon together, and just us, because usually when we're together, it's also with our youngest granddaughter, because of course she's not in school yet. So it was kind of fun to just be the two of us grown-ups out together. And yeah, this week I don't actually have curling tomorrow night, because it's we have a bye, so I'm kind of looking forward to a night off. That'll be good. And this weekend we're going into Vancouver for a Vancouver Canucks hockey game. And it's through my husband's work, and part of it is stay in a hotel also, and then dinner out with this group that we're going with. So that should be a nice little getaway. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like. If it's decent, then I think we'll head in early and maybe go to Stanley Park or something like that. Try and do something, spend some time in Vancouver doing something, because we don't get into the city that often, so it's kind of a good excuse to do more than just the hockey game and spend a bit of time down there. So I guess that's about it. Have you been watching Olympics? I often have in the past, and I haven't watched anything yet. Haven't really followed it much other than knowing that Canada got the gold for the mixed doubles curling yesterday. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really piquing my interest this time around. We did have a great, Vancouver had hosted the Olympics in 2010, and we were all really invested in it then, but I don't know, this year is just not really holding my interest, so I don't know how much I'll actually watch, if any. Anyway, I guess that's it. I feel like I've been all over the place, maybe because I started this podcast so many times. I feel a little discombobulated, but take me as I am, as always. So thanks for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful week and do things that you love. And I will be back again, should be next week. So I will see you then. Till then, take care. Happy knitting. Bye.